So Keir Starmer is accusing the Tory party of championing woke agendas to save their own skin. In a speech, the Labour leader set out his hopes for a society of service and went on to accuse the Conservative government of waging war against the country's greatest institutions and charities. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now by former Labour MP Simon Danczuk. Simon, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. So here we are, Starmer's laying into the Tories on woke issues, but these are issues, actually, Simon, which do get a lot of people irritated. They do feel that things like the National Trust and the Royal National Lifeboat Institution are having a political agenda. What's your take?
Well, it's an interesting speech that Keir Starmer's made today. It's at the Civil Society Summit that's been held in London. And at one point he says, I'm not here to talk about the Tories, and then proceeds to talk at length about the Tories. And he attacks them for their position in relation to the National Trust and the RNLI. And I think the Conservatives are onto something here. I think they are right to challenge the National Trust on what their agenda has been. And the most worrying issue here, I think, is that Keir Starmer is trying to normalise the woke agenda. He's trying to make it acceptable to have the views in terms of diversity, in terms of LGBTQ, in terms of slavery and colonialism. He's trying to normalise it because the truth is, Keir is Captain Woke. I mean, that's the reality of it. He takes the knee for Black Lives Matter. He struggles to define a woman. He's usually on the side of the illegal immigrant rather than the British citizen. So he's trying to normalise this whole agenda, and I think that's the serious part of this speech that he's made today.
Simon, don't you think in the past, well, and to this day, everything that Conservatives or the right are concerned about, oh, that's racist, it was dismissed with the flick of a wrist. And now, if you're concerned about Churchill being called a racist, or a review of National Trust properties because they're linked to slavery or the Empire, or the RNLI, a lot of people told me in person in Dover they are concerned it's being used as a taxi service ashore. If you say this, oh, it's just culture war, don't be ridiculous. And it's the same issue. It's Starmer trying to dismiss legitimate concerns with a flick of a wrist. It used to be racist. Oh, now it's just culture war.
Yeah, and that's what we have to be careful about. I think the good news is that people are challenging this woke agenda. The National Trust have quite clearly got it wrong in terms of being overly politicised. So most recently, they've been campaigning on net zero. Listen, their job is around heritage, surely. They have 5.5 million members who pay for the National Trust to look after our stately homes across the UK. Now, get on with that, rather than having a net zero policy or trying to influence politics. They've got it wrong in terms of Winston Churchill. They've got it wrong in terms of slavery and the empire that we should be proud of. We should be celebrating these things. So it's good that people challenge this woke agenda. But trust me, as sure as night follows day, if we have a Labour government with Keir Starmer in Downing Street, he will be promoting that sort of agenda. That is the nature of his politics, his North London Labour elite, and that's a key part of their agenda. It's a concern to me.
OK, it's a concern to many people. Simon Danczuk, thank you very much for joining us. Former Labour MP. It's astonishing sometimes, Simon, when I get you on, that you actually were ever a Labour MP with opinions like that. We're all sniggering in the studio. You used to sound like, basically, Lee Anderson, but with a different rosette.